This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Today's episode of the Motor City Sports Rant is brought to you by Score, a new mobile app coming soon. Score is an interactive game that lets users win deals at bars and restaurants based on what's going on in live sporting events. Find new places to watch the game and save money on your bill at the same time by taking advantage of Score's unique interactive specials that give you an additional stake in the action. A Score special can be anything a location wants it to be, from 10% off an item if a team scores a touchdown to a free round of drinks if the quarterback throws for 400 yards. Any stat can be turned into a game. Pick the deals you want to win, watch the games you want to watch, and score deals in real time. The app will update when your teams or players record a relevant stat. When the conditions of your deals are met, coupons are sent to your device to show to your server or bartender. It's that easy. Score is coming to the App Store and Google Play very soon. For more information, check them out on the web at score-app.io and follow them on Twitter and Instagram at Score Deals. Score. Watch games. Score deals.
Detroit is the greatest! Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back with Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! He makes them a goal! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Motor City Sports Rant on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. As always, I am your host, Jason Jarvie, and along with me for the ride for the next 55 to 65 minutes to talk some glorious sports, John, the Doc Macaroon. What up?
Jason, always enjoy talking to you. Kicking off another great week of podcasting here at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. How did you enjoy the Detroit Lions bye week? For me, it was amazing. Sunday was such a beautiful day. Got to play with the kids. You know, I have this little bounce house set up for them. I filled it up outside and played with them, relaxed, thoroughly, kind of detached myself from all of football. Kind of kept track just a little bit of my fantasy football team, which again, you know, scoring consistently in the 60 to 70 point range. For me, it was so nice not to watch any kind of football, to enjoy a beautiful day. And then around 6:30, went to a kid's birthday party at a local place that's by my house that a lot of kids like to go to. So enjoyed an evening with the kids, had a lot of fun, and got home and enjoyed a night of wrestling on the WWE Network. That's how I spent my Sunday. And it was actually a very nice time to kind of detach a little bit from the Lions, kind of take some time away from peeking into what's going on. But now that it's game week, it's a huge game. Lions 3-3. They play Sunday night at home versus Pittsburgh, coming in at 5-2. Interesting to say the least. But how'd you spend the bye week?
The bye week, I got my fill of football in on Saturday, pretty much. I went down to Ford Field, watched my nephew play in a kind of a prep bowl. He's like seventh grade, so
did they win?
They did not. It was a strange format. They only because they played high school games later in the day, so they only played a 20-minute quarter. So they only got the ball twice, and it would have been interesting to see them play the entire game. But there were a couple of really good plays. They have this one really good player on their team that they punted the ball away, and the other team didn't even cover. So the ball started bouncing, and it kept going. It was almost going to be a touchback. Kid made it all the way down. And this is also the kid who snapped the punt. Made it all the way down, dove for it, stopped it at the 1 yard line. They weren't able to stop the team on defense, though. So it was fun to see, and I'm super proud of my nephew for being able to do that. But yeah, watched the part of the Michigan State game, and they just sent it down to the wire, and I was just overjoyed watching that Michigan game and how Penn State was able to dismantle them.
So how the experience was on Saturday was I got a chance to watch some of the Michigan State game. It wasn't really all that interesting. I mean, it was like 3-3 at halftime. It wasn't, defensive battle all the way For me, I enjoyed all the homecoming festivities on Instagram and via social media. Everyone was having a good time. A friend of the podcast, Justin Rose, was having a good time. Homecoming for Michigan State is just, and I remember for me going up there with buddies is just a fun time. You get to go up there, have a good old time. Being part of Spartan Nation is really fun. So homecoming, unfortunately for me, I didn't get a chance to go up there officially, but I peeked into the game. It really wasn't interesting for me because of the fact that, a 3-3 game, the opponent, Indiana, not really super appealing on that front, but they got the win. Yeah, 6-1, bowl eligible. Thank goodness.
It had the makings of one of those games where the Spartans are looking really good throughout the season, and then they just have that hiccup game. Didn't happen. The biggest surprise for me was seeing LJ Scott out there on the field.
Exactly. That's the point I want to talk about. Do you feel like he should have played in that game? Was that wrong? Right or wrong for Michigan State and Mark D'Antonio, knowing what the situation was with LJ Scott? Should he have been on the field?
So watching it, I was very surprised, and it was something where I was like, is this going to come back to haunt D'Antonio? Is this going to be another one of those bad decisions? But then I read something today, and it was detailing everything that it was, and basically, it was nothing bad. It was, I think, it was an unpaid parking ticket or something like that, and he was on some learner's license, and he paid it the next day after it expired. So they gave him a little bit of leniency, and he seems like he's done his time. It wasn't. If it would have been that he went out and it was a DUI and he got arrested or he got into a car crash, I think that would be one thing. But this,
what was it? Did he sit out a series? Was that about it? A series? Not even a quarter.
Barely. I thought I saw him in the first quarter.
Yeah, I think he sat out one series. That was his punishment for it.
And being a Sparty, I am definitely biased. I'm sure Michigan fans and everybody else around are crucifying Mark D'Antonio for the guy has been arrested for 7 times now. But he hasn't done anything bad.
You look at it and you say, whenever you drive on a suspended license multiple times, people are wondering what's going on with Michigan State Police, what's going on with all these agencies that keep dropping the charges, because of the fact that for most people, when they drive with the suspended license, they feel like potentially LJ Scott's getting preferential treatment because of the fact of maybe who he is, that he's playing football. And the fact is, if he's only gotten caught 6 or 7 times, how many times has he actually driven without getting caught? And people are wondering, okay, once a punishment happens, why is it that he keeps repeating the same mistake over and over and over again? People are kind of speculating, can you trust LJ Scott? What's up with this guy? Because he keeps making news for situations off the field, when right now, Michigan State's kind of in a delicate situation. They basically have to keep all the headlines positive, keep it about football. And this is just another reminder that, dude, what's up? What's going on with LJ Scott? It's a little bit basically a sign of a deeper problem in that, don't you respect rules? Can you not keep your license current? These are things that seem to be pretty easy to be able to take care of.
I think it's going to be a non-issue. The only people who are going to bring it up are going to be Michigan fans who.
Yeah, for me, I'm like, cool.
They're trying to pick at something that's kind of a black eye on the organization at this point.
We have to give props to Michigan State, 6-1, bowl eligible, unbelievable.
It's something that after last year and how they played, and they lost to Indiana last year. I thought this season was going to be another wash with all the players who got kicked off the team with their legal issues. Donnie Corley, I thought he was going to be the focal point of this offense. Without him, I thought we were really going to struggle. But I should have had more faith in Mark D'Antonio, in that he's built up this program before. He built it from pretty much nothing to getting to the college football playoff, and now we see there are still players on this roster. Even if LJ Scott didn't play, I think we still would have had a pretty decent shot with the guys like Gerald Holmes and Mondres London.
Here's an interesting note. Both Mark D'Antonio and Jim Harbaugh don't know how to call offenses. They don't know how to put entertaining offenses on the field at the current moment. Both teams, Michigan and Michigan State, have really emphasized defense. So aesthetically, it's not really pleasing to watch the two major college programs in Michigan. But Michigan State is coming away with the victory. You know why? Because the quarterback situation, one of the most important positions on the football field, obviously the edge goes to Michigan State. And
He's able to get it done.
But he's doing some things that are a little bit concerning in terms of a couple possessions. I don't know if you pay attention closely. Some of his throws, a little bit high, a little bit inconsistent, and people are kind of wondering, Lewerke could be further ahead than he really is right now.
He could be further ahead, but you take the W, and you've seen the guys who've come through before, and Kirk Cousins and Connor Cook, that they develop as they play. Kirk Cousins, he made a ton of awful decisions, but as he kept playing, as he just kept going through the program, he became one of the better quarterbacks in Michigan State history, and that's what we've seen Mark D'Antonio do. I predict probably by the end of this year, we'll start to see even more from Brian Lewerke. He comes back next year. I think we get wide receivers who are another year older, more. They're just getting more. I think we have the talent there, and once we actually have a go-to receiver, I think we're going to be pretty set.
Super important contest Saturday, October 28th at Northwestern. 6-1 right now. I feel like a 3:30 contest. I feel like you have to have the opportunity to go out there and get that victory, because looming large, Saturday, November 4th, Penn State. Saturday, November 11th at Ohio State. You can't lose to Northwestern. It's a huge contest.
Yeah, and this would be another one of those games where it's like, this could be one of those contests where Michigan State's starting to look a little bit ahead. They see Penn State and Ohio State on the horizon, and that they want to maybe get ready for that. And they'll always come out and say that they're always just worried about who's right in front of them, and that being Northwestern. But it doesn't stop the talk. And for them to say that they don't listen to what the media is saying, what all the fans are saying, that's bogus. They're absolutely thinking about what's going to happen in the next week with Penn State, with Ohio State. I'm not gonna say that they're writing this one off just yet, but they're gonna have to be very careful. It's on the road. This team, I don't know.
First, Penn State and Ohio State. Any confidence they can get one of those two games?
There's a little bit of confidence that I think they can get one game, and that's what my thinking is if you can go with those two games, if you can at least get one of those games, I think that's a huge victory for this season.
See, I think that potentially, realistically, you beat Northwestern, you get to 7-1, lose to Penn State at home, lose to Ohio State on the road, and potentially then you'll be 7-3. You finish out the season with victories, Maryland, Rutgers. 9-3 is not bad. 9-3 is not bad at all.
Coming from 3-9, no, not at all. And even if they do win one of those games and they go 10-2,
that'd be amazing.
I don't think it doesn't guarantee you a trip to the Big Ten championship game, though, because regardless of who you lose to, let's say you lose to Penn State. Penn State's probably going to go undefeated in this Big Ten East. And they're going to be the ones going to the Big Ten championship. I mean,
you need some help, potentially. Maybe Ohio State can. I think what win-win is if Ohio State defeats Penn State this upcoming week, and then you go and handle your business versus Ohio State. That might put you in the forefront of a chance to get to Indy. But I think that's really kind of stretching out the top of what Michigan State can do.
Because I think what you want to do, you want to go in there and get to the championship game on your own merits. You don't want to have to rely on another team to beat a team, so you get the perfect scenario that you get to that Big Ten championship game. And it may even be better that we don't go to the Big Ten championship game this year.
Get a little bit more hunger and
get hungry again. Reach higher, which Mark D'Antonio always says, because I think you have another juggernaut in the West in Wisconsin. It's a double. I can go both ways, because if you do win one and you happen to get into the Big Ten championship, then you've far exceeded expectations, and you're going to expect more from this team. You're going to expect that they are able to go into that Big Ten championship game and really play with Wisconsin. That might be more devastating to go in there and just get housed by Wisconsin than to maybe get one of these victories or lose both of them, go 9-3. You start fresh next year.
So I watched the Michigan game at a housewarming party. A cousin of mine, a good friend, good cousin, Josh, bought a house in Royal Oak.
Is he a Michigan fan?
He's a Michigan supporter, but, he was more, wanting to entertain guests, so he wasn't fully invested in watching the game like I was. So I kind of got there. He served Billy Sims barbecue. It was so good, and sat down, enjoyed a quick tour of the house, sat down, looking forward to Penn State destroying Michigan. And I kind of said to myself, because of the fact, obviously, Penn State got out to the 14-0 early lead. I was just thinking to myself, the line opened around 10, 10 and a half, 11, and a lot of money was bet on Michigan to bring the line down to 7, 7.5. And I'm not a gambler, not too big on spending money on point spread and things like that. I would just bet money lines, but to see, I don't understand what gamblers were seeing in Michigan. I know always in the gambling world, getting points is a lot, but you got John O'Korn as the quarterback. Many fans were thinking at best, Michigan was going to score 12 to 13 points. And I know many people respect Don Brown in that defense, but at home, Penn State, whiteout, you had a situation where you knew psychologically Franklin and Penn State wanted to avenge that destructive loss last season at the Big House. So if I were to bet, I would have bet all the money on Penn State destroying Michigan. That was kind of the consensus, and it happened. So for me, I was kind of excited at first because Penn State was destroying them. And then, obviously start sending out tweets, oh, this is destruction. Everyone's messaging like, oh, the game's already over. Adam and I were going back and forth on Twitter. And then all of a sudden, the interception happens. Michigan intercepts a pass from McSorley, and they get back into the game. And I'm like, oh, here we go. The momentum kind of swung a little bit to Michigan's side. They were performing. And so I went outside, I watched the first half, went outside a little bit, came back, late third quarter, and I seen that amazing play by Saquon Barkley, and I was just like, wow. And they pulled ahead, and I was super excited to watch Penn State destroy Michigan because that's what they deserve. Michigan fans deserve to watch that kind of contest.
Yeah, it was really just a combination of Michigan's offense not being able to get anything going and Penn State clearly just being the better team. Michigan's defense, they really haven't played the level of players that they faced against Penn State. Saquon Barkley is the best running back in the country right now. And Trace McSorley, while I wouldn't call him a game breaker, he's not going to be playing on Sunday in the NFL, but he's a very good college quarterback, and the system that they have there in Penn State is perfect for him. And the way that they started out that game, where it looked like they had Michigan's defense on its heels. They were able to recover very quick, but not after jumping out to the 14-0 lead. But they couldn't stop it. Saquon Barkley was able to do what he did. Trace McSorley was able to take advantage of a lot of those read options that they would run because Michigan's defense had to fully commit to trying to stop Saquon Barkley. But as soon as they did that, McSorley tucked it down himself and was able to run it himself. So it was fun for me to watch because I hate.
Love watching.
I hate Michigan. I like watching them lose. I didn't expect it to be as much as it was. That's what I wanted, but even I was like, Michigan's defense, it's pretty solid. It was the number one defense going into the week. I'd be curious to see what that is now. I don't think they're going to be number one.
So the reason why I texted you and I was like, oh, this is so great, because sports radio has blown up, podcasts have blown up with the discussion, the split Michigan fan base, split right in half, I believe. I believe it's 50% of people are pissed off going, dude, okay, fine. We don't expect potentially to defeat Penn State on the road, but to get our asses kicked, this is unacceptable. This is year 3. This is Jim Harbaugh making $9 million a year. Having a couple assistants making $1 million plus, this is totally unacceptable. We don't have a quarterback. We don't want to see O'Korn anymore. We're totally pissed off. And then you have the other side, which are debating feverishly and angrily and aggressively towards the other side, saying, whoa, we expected Michigan to have 3 or 4 losses this year. Chill out, stay patient. We don't want to fire Harbaugh. He's the best option. And listening to sports radio, listening to other podcasts, people are calling Jim Harbaugh a fraud. They're calling for his head. They're wondering what is going on here. And I love the side, texts and tweets that we get regarding, well, Jim Harbaugh has kind of a similar record at a certain point than Brady Hoke. Similar. In the last 11 games, Michigan 6-5. Your rivals, you got Penn State now that's passed you. Franklin, has done some things with the program. Seems to be ahead of Michigan at this point in time. Michigan State seems to be ahead of Michigan at this point in time. So Michigan fan base is a little bit upset. And here's how I'm just going to put it. I can understand those that are angry, but realistically and objectively, Jim Harbaugh was billed as special, as the guy.
Jesus and khakis.
As a guy on the level of an Urban Meyer, a Nick Saban. So I can't be that mad that he's not. Special only comes around once in a while. Okay, so Michigan fans, you have a decent head coach. You have the guy. But if you were sold the bill of goods, if you believed the hype train maybe of some fans and some newspapers or those that said, this guy's going to come in here and just start winning right away, it's really hard. There's not too many Urban Meyers and Nick Sabans out there. So
yeah, how many championships did Harbaugh win before he got here?
But we could sit here and say Jim Harbaugh's not special. This is not what a football team should look like. And you can obviously say it. This is not what a team should perform like. And the biggest problem is, and I can understand it, is once Wilton Spate gets injured, this isn't the Michigan team. This is John O'Korn leading this team. Nobody would have thought that John O'Korn was going to lead this team to anything. So it is a little bit of an excuse, but I don't see why the Michigan fan base is super duper angry when your starting quarterback goes down. I can see that, you guys with your egos think that you can just roll up any quarterback and just start showing up, but it doesn't work like that because Jim Harbaugh's not special. He's a good coach, not special. That's just the way it is.
I have a slightly different perspective. I think, one, you can't put this on Jim Harbaugh because this is what...
Bro, that scheme is terrible.
So, but you can't say that...
Offensively.
I'm talking about the hype.
Mm-hmm.
That all the hype around Jim Harbaugh, that he was being special, you can't put that on Harbaugh. You can't put that on Jim Harbaugh. That you have to put that on Michigan and its fans, hyping him up and billing him to be this just college football guru, which, he had some pretty good years at Stanford. He, had some solid years in the 49ers, went to one Super Bowl and lost to his brother. Jim Harbaugh is a above average coach. And I think that's what you have. And going 9-3 is above average. I put, even people will probably roast me for this, but Bo Schembechler, he's an above average coach. How many championships did he win, John? Mm-hmm. Did he win a championship?
I could care less. I don't know.
I don't think he won a championship. So there's that. And the second thing is what Michigan fans are reeling with, and I don't think they want to admit, is that Michigan is not the brand that it was. Everyone wants to say that Michigan is they're a name brand. They're not a name brand anymore. They haven't been a name brand since really after Lloyd Carr left. They had the drop off with Rich Rodriguez, with Brady Hoke, and just to think that Jim Harbaugh can come in here and just restore the national glory, it hasn't happened. We don't see where they're going to go. You have all these stories of, Brandon Peters and Dylan McCaffrey, and that all these guys are going to be great and they're going to return them to, the national championship game. But I don't see it. And Michigan fans won't admit it, but I think Michigan, they're at this point, they're just a name. You say, oh, they're Michigan. This is Michigan. And that's all you can really do until you prove it.
Schembechler amassed a record of 194, 48-5, won or shared 13 Big Ten conference titles, no national championships.
Yeah, and it's great to have all those won or shared Big Ten titles.
But this is a new era. Now they got a playoff era. And here's the problem.
Even back then, are you telling me that all those people who... they were just complacent with Big Ten championships? They didn't want the national championship? After, you said 13? After like 5 or 6 of those and not getting any national championship, how can you be okay with that? As a Spartan fan, I've loved Mark D'Antonio for what he's done, but I don't expect anything less than a national championship. And it's great to get a Big Ten championship.
Jason.
Hey, let me
for Michigan State?
Let me finish. So it's great getting the Big Ten championship, but that's not what I really want. I want a national championship.
Jason, that's really the top of the line in terms of Michigan State football winning a national title.
But isn't that where you want to aim?
That's where you want to aim, yeah. But realistically, for Michigan State, it's getting to Indy, winning Big Ten championships.
Realistically, Michigan State has been on that path. We've seen them get better. Get better and be ranked higher.
But the best players go to the special coaches. The best players go to Urban Meyer. The best players go to Alabama. That's just the way it is.
And I'm not saying that we're either of those teams, but Michigan still acts like they are.
Yes,
they're there.
they know now.
Ohio State.
No,
they are Alabama.
They know now their role. They know.
They don't.
They do know.
Who knows?
Michigan fans are now splitting.
Michigan fans have no idea. They still feel like that they're the best.
Oh, then this
there.
is even better. This is even better than to sit there and rip on Michigan fans if they don't know now that they're the second class right now. Look, they're fighting to play Rutgers for the 4th spot in the Big Ten. They know that this is wrong. That's why they're so angry.
If they know that this is wrong, then they have to admit that they aren't the best in the
That's
state.
why they're so angry, Jason. That's why 50% of people are so pissed off, because they thought, the ones that are angry, they thought that they got their Urban Meyer. They thought that Jim Harbaugh was the guy that could be a guy that comes in 3 years and get them to a national title. They thought that. And it was billed as that potentially. And I was nervous when he was first hired, based on all the hype, based on the fact that he came from the NFL. I was buying into the hype a little bit, but once I saw the trouble with the snap, some calls that were made with Jim Harbaugh and the conservative nature in which the offense looked like in the first year, I'm like, a little bit concerning. But no, now after year 3, people are like, dude, you can't go into Happy Valley and get destroyed. And I think that right now the side that says you got to be patient, they're saying, look, just give Jim Harbaugh some time to get his quarterback the guy, because they believe that Wilton Spate's not the guy. John O'Corn definitely is not the guy. So they're waiting. They're looking at now the rest of the season as the preseason for next year. Just get Brandon Peters some experience, get somebody else some experience to see what we got, because they do believe that potentially Jim Harbaugh could lead them to a national title. But the problem that he has is that other coaches, and Urban Meyer, the special ones, have gotten success a little bit faster. But in my opinion, I feel like Jim Harbaugh's still on the trajectory of having some success, winning a couple Big Ten championships, maybe even getting to the playoff once or twice. But to build,
so he has a trajectory of a Mark D'Antonio.
Exactly. That's the realistic trajectory. I don't think that Harbaugh is on the trajectory of Nick Saban, where you can get into the national college playoff 3, 4, 5 consecutive years. I don't see that at all.
No, and there's not a lot of teams that can do it. That's what fan bases that are so high, like teams like Michigan, Notre Dame, USC, that they think that they're so much better than everybody else. But the reality is a team like Alabama and a team like Ohio State, with guys like Nick Saban and Urban Meyer, there's only 2 of those teams. There's not 10 of those teams out there. There's a lot more parity than what people think. It's a lot of, you have a good year this year, then you have a slightly down year. That's what the majority of college football teams are. There's only one Nick Saban, only one Urban Meyer.
Exactly. You're exactly right. Michigan fans.
Look at Clemson. Dabo Swinney. People thought that he's the next up and coming coach, and Clemson, they failed against Syracuse. Not in basketball. This is football we're talking about. They lost to Syracuse. Mm-hmm. So that's just it proves even more that there's no perfect coach out there outside of Nick Saban.
So Michigan fans, just enjoy a little bit of this, because this is what you guys got to hear.
Back to life, back to reality, back to life, back to reality, back to life.
Unfortunately, I don't think Michigan fans were ever in any sort of reality.
No, that's why we're here. We're here to tell them Mark D'Antonio is the best coach in the state. Michigan State's the best program in the state right now. You guys got to go back to reality. It's not going to happen this year, and potentially this year could get even worse. They could lose to Wisconsin. They could get destroyed by Ohio State. Could lose a bowl game if they get bowl eligible. You're looking at potentially a 4 to 5 loss season. It could get much worse. So that's why we're sitting here at the Detroit Sports Podcast, the Motor City Sports Rant, telling everybody, back to reality, Michigan. You got to work hard to get to the top of the mountain, like Michigan State. You don't just get to cut into the VIP line and thinking that because you're Michigan with the big block M, that you just get to roll up and show up and be part of a. You're not a player. Michigan's not a player. They got to grind, baby. They got to work hard. Their first hurdle, they got to overcome Michigan State, because they're trailing, man. They're way behind. And so that's what it is. Back to reality for Michigan. You're back of the line, baby. You're not in the VIP. You're not even close to the front of the line.
Pride comes before the fall.
Oh man, it's all good, man. It was so awesome to hear talk radio.
They can always they can hang their hats on being.
You know what the best call I heard?
They can win all those recruiting battles.
The best call I heard on sports radio was somebody actually called, and I thought it was very fair. Some calling, for him to be fired, all the extremists. I kind of stay more in the middle. The great question was, what has Harbaugh actually really won? Squadouche. He's a guy, basically, that, from our perspective, if you're a State supporter, is really, a stopgap. A guy that can build a program potentially to the point where it's successful. Maybe they need to go out and get Dabo Swinney. Maybe they need to go out and get the next hot young coach after Harbaugh builds the program. Because the question was asked, what has Harbaugh won? Gotten a team to the Super Bowl, gotten Michigan to 10 wins, but versus rivals hasn't done all that much. At this point in time, Michigan is not anywhere near sniffing a college football playoff. And that's the goal and expectation when your coach makes $9 million a year. So I wouldn't call him a fraud. I would just say that realistically, getting to your goals isn't going to be a quick fix. So keep suffering, keep on, baby, and you got to figure out this quarterback situation because O'Korn's going to take a licking the next couple weeks if this continues with that crappy offensive line. Patience. Can the Michigan fan be patient? Yet to be seen. But as Michigan State supporters, it's so awesome, man. Amazing stuff.
Indeed. We're going to take a quick break when we come back. I don't know. What do you want to talk about, John?
Well, an organization decided that, okay, we're going to go out, do our interviews, and we're going to hire the next manager of the ball club. But when you objectively look at what was done, I think there is some room for debate and discussion. We'll talk about it next.
Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Jason, I want to tell you about our host site, Podomatic.com. When Adam and I first started this project back in 2013, we were looking for a place to host all of our recorded audio. Thank goodness we found Podomatic.com. We've recorded well over 600 to 700 podcasts, and we use a quality host site that allows us to generate links quickly. Great customer service, been around for well over a decade. If you're looking to start a brand new project, you're listening and you're going, man, I think I got some good takes like Jason and John, like all the other hosts. I think I want to start a podcast. You definitely should. If you're looking for a host site, Doc and Jock, Jason, all the hosts on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, we're going to recommend one host site and one host site alone, Podomatic.com.
Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Is this some French Montana, Jason?
It is unforgettable.
Wow. Looking here, 450 million views, almost 2 million subscribers on YouTube, man. What an avenue to get your stuff out there. Good stuff.
YouTube is it's gigantic. When it initially came out, I don't think anybody really thought YouTube was going to be as big as it is, and now it's become its own thing. It produces its own material. It's
an avenue for individuals to get their stuff out there in a way that people want to observe it. And it's a great way nowadays. It's changed the landscape of television shows, us podcasts. It's really a great avenue. And for me, I don't watch a whole heck of a lot of YouTube. I just watch podcasts that go via the video platform on there. But a lot of the kids I work with, they watch the YouTubers. They watch all the content. My kids watch YouTube Kids, that application. So it's an amazing platform. It's one of the primary ways people are entertained is via the YouTube app.
Well, to talk a little bit about something that's changing and something that's growing and just completely different, the Tigers. You got a new manager.
You impressed?
It's not the sexy pick.
Do you think Ron Gardenhire sits at his home with the iPad, turns on YouTube, and is watching, prank videos?
Probably not. No, I see Ron Gardenhire as the guy who may turn on news talk radio and listen to that for about 45 minutes.
Oh, man. So when the news was made, okay, I think Vito and we were kind of discussing it on the Tigers Talk podcast, which comes out every Wednesday, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We were thinking Freddie Gonzalez, a manager with experience, a manager that was a little bit, unsuccessful in his tenure with the Braves. But we really didn't think about Ron Gardenhire for this simple fact. The notion was, the spin was that the Tigers were going to start, really emphasizing analytics. I mean, you just look at this year in 2017, the two teams in the World Series, the Dodgers spend the most money on their analytics department in the entire Major League Baseball during the World Series. The Houston Astros, the team that has really relied on analytics in order to build a team with that payroll, they utilize advanced analytics. They just got their bench coach, one of their coaches, Alex Cora, now got hired by the Boston Red Sox. So it shows you that advanced analytics is something that is utilized by successful ball clubs. So we thought, okay, the next manager probably going that you're going to invest a little bit in advanced analytics would embrace it. They go out and they get Ron Gardenhire. Okay, I personally like the experience. I like the fact that he probably is going to weather the storm and not let the media take and run him over, but he's going to be learning advanced analytics on the job. Dude, that's probably a 3 to 4 year process in and of itself. You think it's just easy to start learning how to apply advanced numbers? Come on.
I don't think it's easy, but I think if you have the help, you can make do and you can learn it.
Make do. The other teams are 5 to 7 years already in. They're getting better. You can't be behind the 8 ball on this, Jason. That's the biggest problem. They're behind the 8 ball. It'd be like you saying, you know what? It's great. I'm going to start a podcast. John, I want to put a podcast on the network. I'm going to do it in the basement, and I'm not going to use any of the gadgets here that are available to me. I'd be like, whoa, wait a minute. We have it here. Why would you not come and do a podcast here? Come and do it. Use the good stuff. You're like, no, I'm just going to take this interview mic and just walk around and plug it in and do whatever. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. The next set of podcasts are going to be digitized and video. And now I'd be like, what the hell are you doing? You're 5 years behind when we have the technology here ready to go. You got to use it. So for the Tigers to go that route, really
but they are going to be using that. I think that's you
improperly
change it a little bit. It would be more like if I came in here and I was like, hey, I'm gonna do a podcast. I don't need you here. I'm just gonna do it all by myself, and I'll use all this stuff. And I think that's what they're gonna be doing. They're gonna have all this information available to them, and it's gonna really come down to how they use it. Now, I think it isn't just gonna be Ron Gardenhire. I don't think it all falls on him. I mean, it will all fall on him if they don't perform well and they need to let somebody go. It's going to be Gardenhire first, but it's going to be Al Avila. It's going to be their entire department coming together, building a team based on all of these analytics.
Here's the fair question: how egregious is it that Brad Ausmus came out and said basically we don't really use advanced analytics that well at this point in time throughout my whole tenure?
I put that more on Alex Avila and on the entire ball club. That wasn't it that hey, I didn't really get any information from the analytics club. So that does say something that Brad Ausmus was probably working on. He was trying to use some numbers, but it was based on numbers that he had himself.
Well, when you look at the tenure that Gardenhire had with the Twins, he won division titles, but the last few seasons under his tenure, when the team kind of shifted away from it, the team lost. In essence, similar to our talk about Michigan and Harbaugh, Gardenhire isn't special.
No, not at all.
He's professional. He probably will run a good clubhouse. I do see potentially players advancing and getting better under him. I don't think we're going to see the same plethora of mistakes that we saw under Ausmus, but can he take a young group of talent like an AJ Hinch and get them to success without some talent? I don't know, man. They're still shedding payroll. So I feel like if your expectation is Gardenhire is the stopgap before he gets blown out in 3 years and someone else is hired, I think that's probably the starting point of what we should expect. That this is just a guy that's just going to be here for 3 years, no expectations. Let's just see professional-looking baseball for the next couple seasons.
Yeah, I think the best thing you can really hope for is, if you want to compare it to any other Detroit sports team, is that Ron Gardenhire will follow a similar track of Rick Carlisle, where he came in and he started to build this team and get it on the right track. And then you bring in the Larry Brown, you bring in the big name coach, and then you put him over the top. Now, it like I just said, it's not going to be just Ron Gardenhire. This has to be an entire organization. And I think Avila is saying all the right things, saying, they're going to be going through all the bargain bins on the free agency and the waiver wire, trying to find the guys who fit into this offense. We're probably going to see a lot of bad baseball, at least to begin with. But if there's some movement, I think that's going to at least hold some fans over.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough, a tough sell because of the part where we said, like, look, this is an old school guy in a new school world, and he's going to have to, really talk about it and really answer to those that are saying, look, because here's what's happening. And I think Brad Ausmus hinted at it a little bit when he said that he was getting a lot of questions from Twitter. A lot of the questions are also because of the fact we have the information right then and there. We can look up. I mean, you and I, going on our computers can just go, okay, what's this guy's average versus a left-hander right then and there? And we can look right after a guy gets an out and go, whoa, why would you have, a Ducey up versus a right-hander when versus left-handers, there's another guy on your bench that's significantly better. We know that information quickly. So he's going to have to answer for it because by and large, I'm not a guy that totally understands the numbers, but we got guys here that do, and they tell you that if you follow it, you have a much better chance of success by making decisions and how you apply it properly. But there still is room for the eye test. There is room for old school kind of thinking in baseball, but to get to the next level of getting to the postseason and advancing, you can't. I feel like if I were to ask you who's going to be in the playoffs first, Boston or Detroit, obviously Boston because of their resources, but in 4 or 5 years, potentially, if the Tigers get back on track, I feel like Boston still is going to have the edge because they got the better manager now starting off. I think Alex Cora is going to have some success over there. And you still got to compete with Houston, the Yankees, and you got to compete with these big money ball clubs. The Dodgers aren't going anywhere anytime soon. The Cubs still are going to get better. Look at the teams that are in the postseason. The Nationals, you got teams that are pretty much ahead of you now. I don't see them falling back significantly. And you got the Indians who are poised to continue to make runs going forward. So I think it's a huge climb.
What you are going to see, though, is some of these teams with all the young talent, because Houston, who's in the World Series, they have a lot of young talent. All those guys their contracts are going to come up, and they're either going to have to start shelling out money or prove that whatever system they have works and that they have somebody else in the minor league stashed away that can come up and replace whoever they're not going to pay. So that's going to be interesting to see in the next couple of years. Teams like Houston with Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa, those are superstars. Those guys are going to get paid a ton of money, and they now have Justin Verlander on their books for a ton of money. Teams like the Cubs with Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant, the talent is going to cost money. These guys aren't going to play for free.
So with the Tigers, what's your stance? What's your approach going to be for the next year watching them? Are you going to look for just steadily improvement from Castellanos? Are you going to see who's going to be on the team? Do you just want to see if the pitchers that were part of the Fulmer trade do well? Do you see if Michael Fulmer progresses, Daniel Norris, Boyd? Do you just want to see slight progression in this, or do you want to see some competitiveness, maybe get into that 75, 80 win range first year under Gardenhire? What are you looking for you?
I mean, yeah, it would be nice if they get the 80 win, if they maybe are competing for a wild card at the end of the season. For me, it's really going to be the pitching, because for our offense has always been up and down, and I think hitters, they come and go. The pitching is where we really need to focus on. That's where teams, a team like the Indians, that they've come, they in the Kansas City Royals, they built not just the starting rotation, but their entire bullpen. I want to see them build that up and get guys who can just, they do have a designated 7, 8, 9, and that they know that those guys are going to be locked down, because for so long the Tigers' MO has been the starters can usually get them to the 7th inning, and then at that point it's a toss up, and if they can't get to the 7 innings, then you're really screwed because you don't have anybody in the bullpen who can lock down. So that's what I want to see. I want them to think outside of the box. You have Matthew Boyd, Michael Fulmer, Daniel Norris, and a host of other guys now in the minor leagues. Not all of those guys are going to start. I want to see them try to develop them, maybe as a long reliever. Maybe we can get a actual closer out of one of those guys, and then we're going to be the team who has this lockdown rotation.
Okay, before we get out of here, I want to play this clip from Jeff Blashill discussing the game versus the Vancouver Canucks. And something that he said is really alerting to me in terms of the play the last couple games. Right now, as we record this, the Wings are in the midst of a 4-game losing streak consecutively, and the play versus the Canucks, I got to peek in a little bit on Sunday, was unimpressive to say the least.
Brutal effort. I thought it was an embarrassing effort. not even close to the level of competitiveness that you have to have. We should be embarrassed of ourselves. From me at the top all the way on down, we got out-competed, out-worked, out-detailed. We said at the beginning of camp, if we're going to separate ourselves, we're going to separate ourselves without out-working teams, out-competing teams, out-detailing teams. We got out-competed, out-worked, out-detailed. Every facet of the game. I have no explanation for why. We'll go to work tomorrow. We'll make sure we work tomorrow because we didn't work tonight. No explanation of why. I thought we had played overall up until tonight, with the exception maybe Arizona. I thought we had played pretty good. I certainly thought we had played good this week. Maybe we were told how good we had played this week and we were right there and all that crap. I don't know. We talked about playing pretty good and not winning's not good enough. Well, playing like that's not even close.
Not even close. Nowhere near acceptable to play like that. I mean, he basically said it. Embarrassing performance. They looked like they got outworked. All the loose pucks went to Vancouver. They did not play well at all. And I say, when someone asks them the part there where there was a little bit of a lull, the question was why? Why did it happen? You don't know. Your job as a coach is to get your team up, game in and game out. So I understand potentially that there is an expectation that the Wings play professionally, but at this point in time, you can't have performances when you're fighting for 2 points every night where you got to get around 95 points in a season to have performances like that. I was quite shocked at it.
Those are some strong words from Jeff Blashill. And what I would say, you aren't even 10 games into the season. And I don't think he's wrong in what he said. But what I will say, you can't come out every night and just say, that's completely awful, and we don't even deserve to be out there. You can't come out and say that every night. Because at some point, if you say that every single night, then why aren't you doing your job? And you're going to be
that's the question.
The road.
That's the next question I'm going to ask you.
Did he blow his load too soon? I get if you're like 20 to 30, almost midway through the season, and you're playing like this, I get him coming out and saying all this. But you're 9 games into the season and already coming out and saying this kind of stuff.
We've gotten quite a few texts in the last 2 weeks saying, look, Jeff Blashill might be blown out here midseason because of the fact that this team under him doesn't look like it's getting significantly better. I mean, they start the season off well, but at some point, it is his job to get his team to consistently put forth that effort. And at home, when people are struggling to, sit in the seats and, you have this aesthetic where you got this new arena that can't be sold out or people aren't sitting in the seats to watch it, they'd rather have some cocktails, you got to put a quality product on the ice. And to see the performance, the performance was significantly bad in that it looked like they were a step slow. It looked like they didn't want to be there. So for Jeff Blashill, I agree with him. He should have come out and said it. But the question that he asked, but the way that he presented it and said, I don't know why it happened, that's your job to figure out. It can't happen again. And I don't know if it's a team upset about the trades being made or whatever's going on, but Jeff Blashill has to do a much better job so far because since the early start to the season, 4 straight losses, and they got to turn it around quick because it's hard to get into the postseason. Top 3 in your division and a couple of wild card spots. It's not an easy feat anymore to get to the postseason, especially coming out of the East.
Yeah, it's I honestly, if they don't pick it up, I wouldn't be
like, let's go, man, let's go. What's going on?
We could see a new coach by the end of November.
Ooh. Do you blame Blashill? Are you off his bandwagon? Not a fan of him anymore?
I
don't see it, right?
Really, after his first year, he was really touted. He wasn't touted as like the next greatest coach, but he was definitely touted as a player's coach, that he was the coach of these guys coming up, and I expected more from him. I expected him to be able to get more out of guys like Nyquist and Tatar, and it hasn't happened. A guy, Ryan Sproul, who's not on the team anymore. I think he was going to be the next great defenseman, and now he's not even on our team.
Not on the team.
I mean, what if, and it's a what if, but I think there's a good possibility he goes somewhere and he succeeds. He's going to be in a team.
I feel like of Sheehan and Sproul, I feel like Sheehan might have the better opportunity because he's going to Pittsburgh, is going to play with better players. You got to remember, Sheehan was a former first-round pick, so he just couldn't get past some of the talent here. I mean, he's basically relegated to the lower lines, so I think Sheehan might have an opportunity, probably his last, to perform. Pittsburgh wanted him. That's kind of a...
If Riley Sheehan can get on a line, and if he can luck into getting on a line with either Crosby or Malkin, the dude's probably like a 30-goal scorer.
That's the part I'm scared about. I don't want to see Sheehan lighten up the score sheet in the next couple weeks. So we'll see what happens.
That's just the way that team works. And stupid Crosby and slam dunk goals. He also sets up everybody.
Yeah, so I'm not happy right now with the state of the Red Wings. I feel like they got to get back on track real quick here because it could definitely free fall. I know that people didn't expect much, but the team definitely at least could perform night in, night out in terms of energy and effort and things like that. If that's not happening, forget it. You got to get rid of Blashill. Disappointing, to say the least, and he said it. I don't disagree with him for coming out and saying it. I don't think he blew his load too early. I think he definitely probably, if you look at
the last-ditch effort to try and save his job?
That's not strong enough. Do you think that quote to me doesn't make me go, oh, shit, my job's on fire? Dude, send someone down. Send somebody down that, affect minutes. Let the people that are not performing recognize that if you don't at least put forth some effort, you're not getting on the ice. Oh, wow, it's embarrassing. Good for you. I don't think that's a quality in terms of motivating talent this day and age.
Last question before we get out of here. It was opening night for the Pistons this past week, and it was, I'd say, yeah.
They had some games at LCA already?
That pretty much sums it up. It was a less than stellar attendance, even though they reported it as a sellout.
Well, all I'm going to say is this. Sports fans in Detroit were pretty fickle, and they've recognized that a couple factors. They recognize that the Pistons likely, at this point in time, aren't going to be really serious contenders. And two, it's not a draw. Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond have been billed as the guys on this team. I think now you recognize there's another player you got to emphasize and kind of shift Jackson and Drummond to the back of the line. Don't emphasize them. Emphasize Tobias Harris. That's a superstar. Emphasize Avery Bradley. That's a guy that can ball and do some things. So I think naturally Andre Drummond and Reggie Jackson don't want to be in the forefront. I don't think they're ready emotionally or they want the job. I feel like let them be in the background and highlight, and let's hear from Tobias Harris and Avery Bradley a lot more because they can perform on the court, and it was a quality win coming back versus the New York Knicks. They're sitting with a record of 2-1. They play the 76ers tonight after this recording. But in terms of the first game, yeah, it's I'm just going to say this. I think public relations can do a better job. I feel like there still is a little bit of resentment from people that they did move back downtown. And there's one factor, too, that I think is going to start being noticed and talked about, in that Stan Van Gundy is talking politics a lot. When they went to D.C. and lost, another 5-minute clip came up where he was talking a little bit against Donald Trump and talking politics. And no matter what you say, I do believe that he has alienated some of the fans that are going to spend some money. And when you do that, they're just going to not go. And you say to yourself, okay, fine, you want to talk left-wing stuff and you want to be all about politics and discuss things openly, and the way he did it last year, I think he has turned off a certain segment of the population that has some dough, and he hasn't recognized it, but I feel like
that's not going to concern people if the team's winning. If the team's winning, it doesn't really matter, but it's that they are struggling.
Yeah, in combination with the fact that he has, you got to look at all the aspects. Part of it is, of course, nobody believes the Pistons are going to be competitive, and the other aspect is I think he's talking politics too much and has alienated maybe, let's say, 8% of the fan base. That's still maybe, let's say, 1,000 people that don't show up. So, but it was eye-opening to see all the pictures where there was no butts in the seats at tip-off. So it could have been a late arriving crowd to get to 15,000. But here's the thing. And a lot of people said it, when has there been an opening of an arena where you don't fill the place to capacity? It's embarrassing. It's one where they recognized it, and they're going to try and do some things. That's been, just took the hammer to the Pistons and was like, dude, you couldn't give tickets away. I think that they were a little bit over-dramatic and maybe oversold their theory about some of the things that were going on with the Pistons. There were people there, but at the same time, the bigger problem for Little Caesars Arena is, and I seen it firsthand, it's actually better to watch the games from the bar, from the outside, than it is the seats. They've built an arena so awesome, and you got the two teams that are in there that people don't really want to sit and watch from the, with their asses in the seat. I literally, I went to the wrestling event and I sat and I bought tickets in section 109. I walked into the East Club and I was like, holy crap, what is this East Club? This is amazing. Great food, bar-like atmosphere, really clean, really nice. If I wasn't a hardcore wrestling fan, I could have definitely, and I said to the wife, I'm like, dude, we could buy, tickets in this section, maybe the top row, $60, $70. You get the food included in the ticket. Dude, we could just sit in the East Club, have a good time, and get in and out. I think that is a problem that they're going to look at. They'll probably have to see about see about this because the teams aren't going to win anytime soon. So they got to figure out, oh boy, how do we put asses in the seats? It's a problem. But as long as they get the tickets sold, they'll probably worry about the aesthetics on TV once the teams start winning. Have you been to a Pistons game yet or Wings game yet?
No, not yet. I'd love
Soon I'll
to.
take it on.
I'd preferably go to a Wings game, but
Okay.
I know a Pistons game is probably a little bit more affordable.
All right, start showing up on time. Maybe we'll get you into a Wings game.
Gracias.
No problem, Jason. Always enjoy the podcast. Always enjoy talking Bash in Michigan with you every single week. Thank you so much.
Well, until next week, he's John. I'm Jason. Peace out.
Okay, nice idiot. F you. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.